Tzu Chi Foundation signs the agreement to build schools in Guizhou's Wangmo and Sandu counties. We meet some dedicated Tzu Chi volunteers who take different approaches to protect the environment. Welcome to DaAi Headlines. I'm Su. Thank you for joining us. In China, Guizhou Province, Wangmo and Sandu counties are considered impoverished and lack educational resources. In addition, there are many left-behind children whose parents have moved away to seek work. To help the children there pursue education, Tzu Chi Foundation has agreed to build an elementary school and kindergarten in both counties. Signing the cooperation agreement, Tzu Chi Foundation has agreed to build an elementary school and kindergarten in both Wangmo County and Sandu County.
We will mainly cultivate children's moral character as well as improve their academic performance. Such students will contribute to the society and the country.
Tzu Chi upholds Master Zheng Yan's principles, putting an emphasis on health and environmental protection. In such an environment, the children will have good opportunities to learn and grow.
It will improve our teaching quality in the impoverished regions.
Sandu County and Wangmo County are considered impoverished regions in China, lacking educational resources. There are many left-behind children here. 14-year-old Pan Yingmei has learned to take care of herself since she was 10. Her parents have moved to urban areas to seek work and return home only on special occasions.
Dad and Mom, I love you. You worked so hard to earn money to send us to school.
By providing children with opportunities to pursue education, Tzu Chi Foundation aims to instill gratitude and respect in these young minds. Since 2009, June 8th has become the World Oceans Day, and this year's theme was Our Oceans, Our Future. In Taiwan, many scholars and parents have gone to Datan, Taoyuan on this day to observe the algae reef in the area. They also call upon the public to pay attention to Taiwan's ocean environment.
This is a special algae reef in Taoyuan, Taiwan. On the World Oceans Day, many parents brought their children here in Datan to experience and learn about Taiwan's marine resources and ecology and their importance to Taiwan.
This area in Taoyuan has such a huge area of algae reef, so that it includes the ecologies of the reef and sand. And the number of species is several times more diversified than the species from simply sand beach.
This algae reef is the home, the shelter, and the living grounds to many ocean species. However, exploitations and waste discharges by humans have damaged much of our oceans and also threatened our marine resources.
Especially when more carbon dioxide has been discharged into our environment. It has raised the temperature in the oceans and also turned the oceans more acidic.
I feel this is the best way to teach them by allowing them to see, touch, and interact.
The theme of this year's World Oceans Day is Our Oceans, Our Future. And this is a reminder to all of us that we must re-examine the government's marine policies, reduce damage and pollutions to our oceans so we can turn around the crises our oceans are facing.
In Taiwan, the Central Weather Bureau has described the recent rainstorm as extreme rain within a short duration. This rare occurrence had led to flooding. Therefore, many people worry that the plum rain season will have a greater impact. In the face of this possibility, it may be important to reinforce early warning systems. Do you remember the plum rains?
Our traditional impression is that results in March and April are plum rains, but actually this is just spring rains. Real plum rains are quite severe and their scale poses a danger.
In the context of global warming and climate change, we also found that the number of days with rain in Taiwan has become less and less. Also, the number of days with heavy rain has increased and rainfall has intensified.
In just 3 days, Taiwan saw more than 1,300 millimeters of rain. From the north to the south, there were instances of disaster, leading some to wonder if such an occurrence will accompany the plum rains.
At the moment, our research into this subject isn't enough to answer these questions. If you look back some 30 to 60 years, you will see plum rains were quite common, but in the past few years, they have declined a bit.
Experts believe that the nature of plum rains has changed, making them more difficult to predict.
If every time it had the same scale, then it would be quite normal. But now the scale sometimes is like this and sometimes it isn't.
Looking at past records, we find that it wasn't the first time that Taiwan experienced heavy plum rains in May and June. For example, from June 9th to 12th in 2012, a plum rain front, also in southern Taiwan, led to 1,590 millimeters of total rainfall.
Previously, plum rains were even heavier. We can attribute this only to global warming, because as there's no evidence to point out this aspect of climate change. In fact, in the future, some areas may face less rain due to climate change.
Facing the unpredictable nature and catastrophes caused by the exploitation of resources, some believe that in the future, we must rely on a more accurate early warning systems.
In this type of situation where there is lots of rainfall, we will circle it, and our different weather bases will send out a warning.
Now the government is trying to allow different communities to have more awareness of disaster prevention and enhance awareness of high-risk areas. First of all, this will reduce the number of grievances. And second, it will lead to heightened awareness to potentially reduce disasters.
We need to improve our awareness of disaster prevention, as currently we just rely upon the government for this. But obviously the government has no way to cope with this type of extreme weather and related disasters.
The establishment of independent disaster prevention system may be an answer. At this stage, it might be one of the best ways to alleviate some of the problems associated with extreme torrential rain. The rainstorm in early June flooded much of Yunlin County, affecting low-lying area in Dounan town. Among the residents there, 85-year-old Shen Xu Yugui could only helplessly watch her house being damaged by the flood. Fortunately, 50 Tzu Chi volunteers have helped her clean her home.
This traditional Taiwanese house is flooded every time a typhoon comes. When the storm came this time, it also caused damage to this home.
You must increase the pressure so the water can wash away the sticky mud.
50 Tzu Chi volunteers came to help clean out this house today.
I asked for a leave from my work to come here. If this matter isn't handled now, it will become harder to deal with if it's delayed, and it will cause great inconvenience to the grandma.
85-year-old grandma suffers from hypertension, and her son who lives with her requires dialysis. The grandma has lived here for over 50 years. She never realized the storm would cause such serious floods. The walls still have the marks of the floods. The grandma said that it was fortunate her grandsons had returned that day.
My grandsons were stronger, so they grabbed themselves together, or they would be carried away by water. If they hadn't grabbed me, I would have been carried away by water.
After the floods had receded, they left behind much mud at home. Because the grandma's family could not clean their home completely, Dounan Town Hall reported their case to Tzu Chi.
Their house was full of mud and soil everywhere. A pile of mud here was about 15 centimeters deep. And because of Tzu Chi, the homes become so clean. Thank you very much.
After their house has become clean again, the volunteer wished the grandma can now live with peace of mind.
In Taiwan, a Grand Buddha Day ceremony was held at Chiang Kai-shek Memorial Hall in Taipei in mid-May. Among the performers, many of them are young volunteers who play drums. On this day, some of them gathered at the Tzu Chi retreat in Taipei to recall the touching moment of the Buddha Day ceremony.
Chen Xintong's mother is one of the volunteers of Tzu Chi. However, not until Chen attended the volunteer training session did she start to share with others the philosophy of Tzu Chi. She even invited her friends to join the drum team at the Buddha Day celebration.
I think I have been influenced by Tzu Chi's truth, goodness, and beauty, so that I have the right to share with others everything about Tzu Chi. This is why I invited them to play drums, because I think playing drums helps change one's attitude. Seeing all of the disciples work together to present an outstanding performance on the stage, you may feel a great sense of achievement.
This tall man, Zhang Jia'an, has changed his appearance a lot after joining the drum team. He used to grow beard, but now he looks neat and tidy.
You win some, you lose some. I think after losing something, I may receive much more.
After the Buddha Day celebration, some of the young performers gathered again to recall the touching moments on that day.
Almost everyone got sunburned in the afternoon of that day. Many said they could not stand it anymore and they sat aside. But when we gave a performance, everyone worked very hard to present our best to the audience, no matter how tired we were.
Chen Xintong told me that when over 1,000 people play drums with us simultaneously, we will feel moved in our heart. I was deeply touched by the spirit of Buddhism.
Each one of them start to carry out the acts of giving each month to help the less fortunate. They also go hand in hand to walk the Bodhisattva path.
In our continuing series on recycled clothes, we take a look at blended material. Most of the clothes that we wear are actually blended material. However, when it comes to recycling or making new clothes out of these materials, this blended fabric contains different raw materials, making recycling more difficult. This is a problem that many people are trying to overcome. Here's our report.
这个布的感觉非常软，
还撕得下来。
对。
This was the first step in making this product, creating building material out of fabric.
一次又一次，发觉
You can see the changes that we made and how we are getting close to the product that we want.
要的一些产品。
Turning fabric into plastic wood, which can be used as a building material as a result of the latest technology. It's yet another way to put old clothes to good use.
这些都是回收的原料，经过。
All of this is recycled material. After the material goes into the machine and is heated, it goes through this cooling tank and enter this molding machine.
到那个这边牵引机。
At present, production of this plastic wood enters the testing stage to find the best allocation of raw materials. Some 40% is blended material, including cotton mixed with polyester fiber. Another 20% is resin, and 40% is PET material. In the future, this material can be used for framing small wooden buildings or corners, wooden floorboards, or plastic pallets.
因为这边出来就等于是决定它的成败，可不可以就是从模具的出口出来之后就决定了。
Tsai's company is a plastic factory who was one of the first to utilize recovered materials, including innovating everything from the technology to machine equipment. This challenge has incurred additional investment costs as few other businesses have been interested in making use of old clothes.
If we do well, others will swarm to this business. However, those that pioneer this technology will always find it more lonely, as this work is quite difficult, but still some will do it.
The production of plastic wood products, in fact, uses an R&D formula from a social enterprise business model for an environmental resource recovery company. From starting with PET bottles to make blankets, now full attention is being paid to finding new uses for old clothes.
This is a cross-section of this plastic wood, and you can see that every fiber is very uniform and compatible with the polymer resin. You can see that it's quite dense and it isn't porous.
Using old clothes to make plastic wood for use as building materials requires more stringent quality standards.
Most plastic wood, when placed outdoors, is subject to absorbing water and changing shape. To speed up this testing process, we are boiling it in water at 100 Celsius for over an hour.
High temperature heating of this plastic wood does not lead to any deformation. This means that the key to the proportion of raw materials included recycled clothing, which needs to be properly classified.
Presently, if you want to identify the material used in clothing, it may not be enough to check the label, as there is a machine that can easily identify the material. Here we just put this material onto the machine to show that it is pure cotton material. And from the label, we indeed see that it's 100% pure cotton.
Most companies don't have enough staff to sort this material, as presently there isn't any automatic sorting equipment to manage this work.
This is how a plastic wood factory recycles old clothes. The process is labor-intensive, as some clothing is specially designated as blended material, and zippers and buttons need to be removed.
After looking at the label, we see if it's 35 to 100% cotton and then separate it accordingly.
After processing this clothing, it enters a crusher and becomes raw material. This garment recycling plant is much different from others, but only a few downstream domestic companies are interested in developing this industry.
All clothes are made from different materials, and there are also some dyes that require physical and chemical methods to deal with. The cost of pre-treatment can be very high, leading very few domestic companies to invest in such research and development.
The rapid pace of fashion has led to more consumption, as well as an increase in discarding of old clothes. With overseas markets for second-hand clothes gradually drying up, the government will need to accelerate the development of technology to reuse such clothing. Our inability to close this production loop, leading clothes to be incinerated, may eventually suffocate us if nothing is done in the end.
In our next report, we meet Tzu Chi volunteer郭力銘, who has dedicated himself to raising awareness for environmental protection. For the past year, he has gone to different schools to teach children the importance of cutting down on use of plastic bags. With these efforts, many children have started to keep a diary on their usage of plastic bags. In addition, some of them even carry their own recycling bags. Before the class, children first learn some sign language along with some environmental concepts. Through films, the students learn how plastic bags are harming the living creatures in the ocean.
The shark has died on the beach. A lot of plastic bags were scooped out of his stomach.
I'm a bit afraid since they are so beautiful.
When heated, plastic products give off plasticizer, which are harmful to the human body.
What will happen to the children? They will experience sexual precocity. With too much plasticizer in one's body, one might develop cancer.
To ask people to cut down on use of plastic bags,郭力銘has made a poem. Guo also asks the children to keep a diary on their daily usage of plastic bags.
The shop owner wanted to give me a plastic bag, but I told him it's all right, I brought a recycling bag.
In Taiwan, we've used too many plastic. We should uphold 3 principles. Do not use them, use less, and reuse them.
It takes everyone to protect the environment and planet Earth, our only home. Besides Guo Liming, we'll meet another devoted recycling volunteer from Taipei. He Mingchun was a senior supervisor of a government-owned business. After retiring 5 years ago, he started to work as a recycling volunteer. He goes to a market near his home to collect recyclables every day. His perseverance in environmental protection has moved many market vendors. Let's learn more about his story.
For each day, He Mingchun pushes the trolley to the Ziqiang markets in Shipai near his home to collect recyclables from each vendor. This is the daily routine for Mr. He.
They do this with sincerity and they never ask for anything in return. He comes here every day. Even if it rains, he still wears a raincoat to come here. Sometimes I may buy him a drink because it is tiring work.
They do recycling and sort recyclables, so we won't accumulate so much garbage. There's also a contribution to society.
5 years ago, after Mr. He retired as a senior supervisor from the government's owned business, he has been working as a recycling volunteer. His perseverance in environmental protection has moved many market vendors.
After starting to do recycling, I feel physically tired, but I feel relaxed in my heart, and I have no worries. The motivation comes from these volunteers here. They are very considerate, and they are more devoted than we certified Tzu Chi volunteers.
After collecting recyclables from the markets, Mr. He delivers them to a recycling point, which is actually his home. By doing recycling and serving others, he makes his life after retirement more meaningful.
In the United States, the Tzu Chi Chicago chapter held this year's first free clinic at the Chinese American Service League. In Chinatown, at the occasion, team of doctors from more than 10 departments, along with medical students from different universities, worked together to serve 120 residents.
Before serving at the free clinic, this medical team composed of 150 volunteers prays piously.
We provide more than 10 medical departments, including pediatrics, general medicine, family medicine, orthopedics, gynecology, dentistry, and so on.
TIMA members provide medical services for residents living near Chicago's Chinatown. The clinic benefited new immigrants, low-income families, or those without health insurance.
We can see them, give them like 5 or 10 minutes with a doctor you wouldn't have had otherwise. I think it's really nice that we're able to give them that opportunity.
Besides talking to the patients to understand their needs, doctors also treat them like their own family, carefully observing their problems and helping them soothe the pain.
We're doing something meaningful to help those who are in need.
We are doing a good deed to repay society. We will do our best to help.
If all of us work together to complete the task, it will be a great help with so many people's strength.
This young mother sheds tears because she knows that her child is fine. Accompanied by Tzu Chi volunteers in Chicago, each patient feels the warmth and love at this clinic.
At the end of the show, we'll look at some beautiful bronze sculptures created by a hearing-impaired sculptor. His motivation and love for art have helped him overcome his disability to create these beautiful artworks. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.